This is a story that happened to a friend of mine. Something that, although it had already happened to him some time ago, he told me a few days ago. I have to say that his words impressed me a lot when he told me in detail about this event. I guess most of you already know Pokemon Go, the new app that is causing a furor in the world. Another successful idea developed by the founder of the company Niantic, John Hank, also known for the creation of Google Earth. That was a step into the future for a new kind of fun, something that as kids we could only imagine watching every episode of the animated series. Surely in childhood, more than one of us might have thought at some point, how cool it would be if they existed, and even cooler to be able to travel around places to catch them or fight with other trainers. He was one of them, and as soon as he heard that he could download the app, he didn't think twice about venturing into the game. The excitement he felt, despite being an adult living alone, was indescribable, which in turn was funny because he felt like a little kid with a new toy. He spent hours and hours in the streets catching them, or in the squares fighting with other trainers. He just felt his cell phone ring to indicate that a Pokemon was nearby, and without thinking he got up in search of it. Everything was going well until one Tuesday night something strange happened. A night that would remain in his memory. It was around 11 p.m. and he was lying down watching TV in his room, but the calm was interrupted when he felt he received a message at that moment. When he picked up his cell phone, he realized that the game was alerting him that there was a Pokemon nearby. But there was something strange. Normally the program shows what type it is, but this time only the silhouette of a dark image appeared and did not give it any name. It should be noted that I was hesitant to go out since it was very late and the weather was not good at all. The wind was blowing quite strong. But after much thought, besides taking into account that it is a safe area and with the minimum rate of theft, he got out of bed, got dressed, went down to the living room, and went out to the street. Perhaps the fact that the image does not appear is because it is a rare species. At least, he thought so. Whatever it was, he could not miss that opportunity. Guided by the GPS, he realized that the signal directed him to a nearby public square, a place where every morning several parents take their children to enjoy entertainment such as hammocks, slide, seesaw, among others. It was very dark and the creature was still there. Although the silhouette did not look like any other Pokemon he had seen, it still appeared on the map, but he pointed the camera everywhere without finding absolutely nothing. Suddenly, he heard a sound to his left, and perhaps by simple reflex, he turned and looked with his cell phone. It was one of the hammocks that moved by itself. It could have been the wind if the other three that were on the sides were still. It was then when the terror took over his being. Through his camera, he saw on the screen a male Pokemon trainer sitting in the game. A figure with totally black eyes whose hands were holding each end of the hammock rocking. But realizing that my friend was paralyzed watching him, the strange trainer with torn clothes and deformed face got down and started walking in his direction. As he tells, when he reacted, he began to run towards his house, feeling that this thing was chasing him, that from time to time he looked back without seeing anyone, but the sensation accompanied him. With his heart racing, he reached his house, quickly opened the door and locked himself in it, while trying to catch his breath from so much running. His cell phone rang and he realized it was the game again, noticing that the same shapeless silhouette was nearby, but this time it was not in the square. It was now outside his house, right on the sidewalk across the street. Extremely frightened, he went up to the second level and entered the room and closed it from the inside. He was crying in fear. He was so terrified that he was short of breath, and at times he had a lump in his throat. The app kept beeping. Scrolling through the map he had already entered. He just wanted to run away, but he didn't know where to go anymore. The silence was sometimes interrupted by his agitated breathing, until the program had a specific prompt informing him that the thing was in front of him. The room felt cold. His lips exhaled a white vapor that made it clear he was no longer alone. Nor did he want to look, but the signal only made him even more uneasy. In a burst of courage, he grabbed the cell phone, practically shaking, squinting his eyes as he inwardly prayed to God that no one was there. Horror burst into a scream when he opened them. Through the screen, he saw the trainer face to face. His eye sockets were empty and he was smiling at him, showing his fangs, deforming his face even more in that twisted grimace. As best he could, he awkwardly opened the door to his room, stepped outside and went to a roommate who lives nearby. He called and called until he answered. He was a nervous wreck as he told him what had happened, bursting into tears. When they looked at the screen, nothing appeared. That guy who didn't believe him too much thought that the game was upsetting him a bit. He told him that he had no problem with him staying if it calmed him down. But in passing, he recommended that he uninstall the application as it was somewhat addictive and would end up driving him crazy. Finishing the story of his experience, he told me that he had already uninstalled everything from his mobile. But still, to this day, there are times when at night a deep cold runs through his room. The noises are heard in the house, like small footsteps, and he feels that something is watching him from the corners. Now he knows that he no longer lives alone, that in that darkening something came with him to stay. But he confessed to me one thing, that he prefers a million times those disturbing sensations to having to see him again, because we have not yet known the true horror.